Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. Phil Pinarski here, joined by Dean Holzwarth as always, and we have a new face on the show. Andy McDonald is on sabbatical this week, so we are now being joined by AJ Evans, one of our fantastic digital content producers here at News 8, who also happens to be a pretty big sports fan. AJ, so happy to have you on here. It's going to be a little bit of a different change of pace, but again, we're expecting you to really pick up the slack that Andy's leaving behind this week.
For sure, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's talk about you a little bit so everybody can kind of get to know you. You still relatively new here at News 8, but you've really hit the ground running where, people have probably seen your name on a bunch of different articles on our website already, but you're also a pretty avid sports fan. Tell us a little bit about how your sports fandom really came to be growing up.
Yeah. I grew up in Metro Detroit, so I feel like I really didn't have much of a choice growing up. I grew up going to the Palace, going to Tigers games. Still have yet to attend a Lions game. That just occurred to me. Yeah, but obviously grew up rooting for all the teams, and so it's always stuck with me. And then I covered Michigan State athletics when I was in school. So, Yep.
Yeah, no, just love sports, and that's why we had to pick you on to replace Andy on this show. Maybe it'll be permanent. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But definitely, we're going to be talking about your experiences with MSU coming up later in the show with a brand new segment. But we want to begin, of course, talking about the struggling Detroit Tigers. How long has it been since we said anything even remotely like that? They have lost now, I believe, 9 of their last 10 after Wednesday's loss to the Pittsburgh Pirates 6-1. We've talked about it, Dean and Andy and I have ad nauseum, basically, the fact that the bullpen is maybe the biggest concern for the Tigers. But really, in this losing streak right now, it's kind of been the offense a little bit too. I mean, do we have to start worrying about the hitting now for the Detroit Tigers just as much as maybe that bullpen?
I think so. Like we talked about this, like you said, at length about just their inability to, find some good bullpen relief and get outs when you need them. And now they've scored 9 runs on this last road trip. So definitely, I think a cause for concern right now. Like Pittsburgh, obviously you're going against Skeens the other night, and obviously that's going to be tough no matter what team you are. And then Keller, I think in game 2, and then on Wednesday they threw out a guy who had really struggled, especially with, at bats as far as batted balls. And they couldn't get to him either. So the biggest thing to me is if you look at the way things have been going, teams have been jumping on the Tigers early, right? First 3 innings when they've been doing all their damage. So they're getting out to early leads. And then, Tigers have done a good job all season of kind of fighting back, but they've gotten into these holes that they just can't get out of.
I mean, what really is, AJ, I guess, your opinion about how bad the team offensively has been, on top of also just losing these games that just feel like they shouldn't be losing? Again, just right after the All-Star break, it's just been, I think they've won 1 game since we've been back from Atlanta.
For sure. I think right now this team badly needs Kerry Carpenter back in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that stood out to me the most. He brings so much energy to this lineup, and I feel like a lot of people outside of Detroit really don't know how good he is yet, but they're going to find out soon. But, I think for a lot of these guys, this is their first time in many of their careers playing meaningful baseball day in and day out. And I think when you're getting an opponent's best game day in and day out, every series, every game, that takes a toll. And so I think some of these guys are just slumping right now. I think it's difficult for them. I think it's safe to say that the entire team kind of has hit a bit of a wall. But I'm still not too concerned. I think this offense is going to find its rhythm. I mean, when this team was clicking earlier in the season, they looked unbeatable at times. And so I think they're going to get back to that. I think it's just a matter of everyone just sort of finding their rhythm again, finding their timing, and just, focusing on the little details. Because like you said, Phil, some of these games are just slipping away. Yeah. And I think that is a sign of their youth, which we haven't said much this season.
So you're not that worried. Dean, how worried are you? I mean, a scale from 1 to 5, maybe where are you putting your worries right now with the Tigers?
I mean, I would say maybe like a 3.
Okay. Right in the middle.
Like AJ said, they are going to start clicking at some point, right? You have lots of guys who are just not getting good at bats right now and really kind of struggling. And then obviously that affects everything else, right? If you're not hitting and getting off the good leads, now you're putting you're starting pitching in bad situations where they have to get outs. And the starting pitching hasn't been good lately. The one win was when obviously Skubal pitched, but then, we had to to rally there with a Matt Vierling single in the 8th inning to win that game on Sunday night. So I do think they will come around. It's just a little bit cause of a concern right now. They got to find a way to start, manufacturing some good at-bats and scoring some runs like they had been. But everything's not crashing around right now. It's just a little low right now, and we've seen this with all the good teams. Dodgers, they had struggled, lost like 8 of 10 or something like that. So like every team's going to go through this, and we just hope it's not prolonged here in the next month here.
Right, and AJ, kind of going off that same point, where would you put yourself 1 through 5?
Yeah, I would say a 3. I think the struggles have been so uncharacteristic that I really don't have too much reason to be concerned as of right now. But I mean, I really liked what I saw at the start of the year. Like I said, I think it's just a matter of these guys figuring out, hey, you're on top now, and this is what comes with it. And I think once a lot of the young guys really begin to grasp that, I think they'll be more than fine.
Definitely. I got some additional statistics that maybe will help or maybe hurt how confident you guys are in the Tigers maybe turning this back around. They have now lost the best record in the majors. They had that for maybe the last month and a half, 2 months before the All-Star break. Cubs and Brewers have now caught up, but the Tigers still have the best record in the American League, and they still have an 8-game lead in the Central over the Guardians. So again, maybe that helps kind of quell the nervousness at least a little bit, knowing that you're still have a pretty decent lead in the Central. But again, I think maybe the national attention is maybe moving away from the Tigers being as dominant as many people thought that they were heading into the All-Star break. Definitely want to hopefully see that kind of rebound over the next couple of games. Hopefully, we don't have to wait too much longer for that.
They're coming home, so maybe that will help.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah, I mean, do you think maybe the All-Star break also played a role into how they're jumping off? Because again, we had so many guys actually playing the game, enjoying the festivities of everything with All-Star Weekend in Atlanta, a big city like that. I mean, do you think that maybe also played a role in just kind of the slow start to the season going again?
I think it might have. When your main guys aren't getting too much of a break, I think that's got to be tough. But like I said, I think everyone is just kind of out of whack right now. So I think coming home, everybody getting to sleep in their own bed, getting to just get back in front of the fans in Comerica will do a lot for them. And like I said, everyone right now is struggling across the board, which to me, that speaks to their fatigue.
Definitely. And, with the trade deadline coming up in about a week or so, I thought it was this week, but apparently it's next week. So I still have a little bit of time. Definitely some names being thrown around already on who the Tigers might be willing to give up and also who they're maybe targeting. We'll get into that a little bit more next week as well as the trade deadline approaches. But let's shift gears now to another baseball team, a team that's actually been winning and consistently winning over the past couple of weeks, that being the West Michigan Whitecaps. We know that now the top Tigers prospects have been moved up to the Erie Seawolves, but the Whitecaps, again, still winning. They swept the Lugnuts last week. They won the first game of a 6-game series against Peoria yesterday, and I truly have not seen a team this well-rounded on the baseball field. Like, given the level of competition, they are just stacked top to bottom. Even when they lost Max Clark and Briseño and McGonigal, there were worries about what's going to happen next with the Whitecaps, but they've been keeping it going. They've still been just rock solid top to bottom.
Yeah, they definitely have. And I think we talked about that a little bit, right? Like, was there going to be a letdown? And I didn't think so, right? Because obviously I'm out there quite a bit, and so I kind of seen this line up, and I
you have insider knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought other guys would pick up the slack in their absence. And yeah, Tony Capicelli's just a great manager, and he's getting these guys, ready every single day to go out, play hard. Last night, so Tuesday night, they rallied to win 6-5. They were down 5-2. So they're just doing all the little things. And they're one of the best teams, obviously, in minor league baseball right now. And it's really incredible the way that they continue to just have success, from a pitching standpoint and still able to, score runs and do all the things that are needed to get these wins. Obviously, I feel like the pressure was off, right? We talked about this at length. Like, they won the first half. They're in the playoffs, so they really have nothing to lose at this point, right? They're just playing relaxed, playing free, and you've seen it the last 2 weeks.
Right. No, and I think the playing relaxed thing is huge, though, because you got to think that we can't be the only ones that thought that once their top guys kind of moved up that there would be maybe a drop-off, but they had already clinched that playoff berth, like you mentioned. So there's less pressure. Everybody's playing free and loose and just, again, having fun. And I think that's like the big thing that I've noticed just watching this team play week after week, game after game.
Yeah, there are so many signs, I think, that this team, so many things that epitomize good baseball, and this team has just so many factors. You know, the fact that they have been able to play well even after losing all of their guys, and that they always seem to be having fun, and they just do a ton of the little things that matter.
Right.
That's been the thing that stood out most to me. So I've been super impressed, and I think they're managed very, very well.
Definitely. I want to talk about Tony Capicelli in just a little bit, but I do have some stats for you guys, and I want to have a little bit of a debate on what is the most surprising, most jaw-dropping part about what I'm about to tell you. So, the Whitecaps, as of the time that we're recording this on Wednesday at 4:30, this is they've played 90 games. The Whitecaps have. They have a plus run differential of 208. The next highest team in the Midwest League is Cedar Rapids with just a plus 61. So almost, I mean, I can't do math, but well over 3 times the next highest number. That's the first stat. The second stat is that given their run differential and just how many runs they've given up and scored this season, they're averaging about 6 runs a game while only giving up less than 4. I think the number was like 3.75 runs per game. So based off, they're almost doubling up their opponents per game, or the fact that they have a 208 run differential 90 games in. I mean, what's more surprising to you guys?
I don't know about surprising, but like that first one is pretty.
It's crazy. It's a crazy stat.
That's a crazy stat.
Yeah.
And they just broke the franchise record for most wins by or scoring double-digit runs in games, right? And we've seen it. They've scored 19 runs. They've scored 20. They just, have really been mashing the baseball and putting up, runs every single night. And so like that whole thing with that, the gap between that is pretty remarkable to me.
Definitely. And AJ, I mean, kind of the same sentiment there. 208 is just an outlandish number to think about.
Yeah, it's outlandish. I don't think there's a more impressive stat than that.
Not much more to say. Yeah, right. No, exactly. And you'd think that this came when, I think there was that stretch when McGonigal and Max Clark and Mercedes, I mean, they were hitting 2 home runs per game or something like that, and they were scoring 20-plus runs. But even last week, they still scored 15 runs. I think they, more than doubled up the lug nuts. So it's continuous with this team. And that kind of leads us to talking about Tony Capicelli and just how ready he has these guys in game after game. And again, just keeping it so much fun. Dean, you probably know better than anybody else, but the amount of times that you've been down at LMCU this year, just seeing like how he has control of everybody.
Yeah, and he's just so laid back, right?
Yes.
Like he's a player's manager. He's going to obviously, listen to his guys and what they want and what they need and things like that. I just think his relaxed approach to the game and his players is something that they kind of feed off. They enjoy playing for him. They enjoy being around him, and it's just a great environment right now. And does it have anything to do with the changes to LMCU? I don't know, maybe. But like we talked about at the beginning of the year, even with those three big guys, that they were still, top to bottom, they were really, really good on paper, and they're proving it right now.
Definitely. And I think that also kind of goes into the fact that he was able to manage. I mean, those 3 guys, they knew that they were stars. They knew that they were going to be moving up at some point. And he was able to get them to buy into making the Whitecaps what they were this season. And then when they were gone, again, it's next guy up mentality. So again, props goes out to Tony Capicelli. I mean, if he doesn't win Manager of the Year, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. And it makes me optimistic about the playoffs, right?
Yes,
like if we go here, like we could win our first Midwest League championship in 10 years coming up. And so it makes me really optimistic about what happens come that first week of September when they start the playoffs.
I know. I kind of feel bad because, well, not that bad, but, they've already clinched the playoffs. I just wish we could kind of just jump ahead a little bit because we know they're going to be there. It's just a matter of how they end the season. So that'll be exciting to kind of, again, follow throughout the rest of the summer and just, continue to follow the Whitecaps. Let's shift now over, though, because we can't always talk about good news. We started off with some bad news. We got some more bad news to report now, dealing with the Detroit Lions. We're searching sports altogether now over to football. Obviously getting ready for next Thursday's Hall of Fame game against the Los Angeles Chargers to kick off the preseason. That game will be right here on News 8. Very excited about that. But we knew the starters for the Lions probably weren't going to see the field at all, maybe even just maybe a few snaps, maybe a few series. But again, the injury bug already rearing its head back again for the Lions. During training camp, we learned that defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike actually suffered a knee injury and will miss the entire 2025 season. Lions do have some depth at defensive tackle, DJ Reader, Roy Lopez, and they drafted Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, who, if you've played college football 25, you probably used him a bunch of times in your ultimate team like I did. So again, a great guy that kind of bring in and have ready to go for that. But again, the injury bug, just heartbreaking to hear it again. This before we've even played a game yet.
Yeah, it's not like what you want during training camp, right? All these different guys popping up on the injury report, and then obviously, the ACL missing the rest of the year. So, we're still in training camp here, but it's just not a good sign. It's because the Lions have dealt with so many injuries the last few years. Obviously, their defense was so banged up at the end of last season. But there's time, right? There's enough time, and I think what it does is it's going to allow some of the young guys that they're going to have to step up, right? They're going to play, they're going to see lots of snaps in these preseason games, and so I think that's really going to kind of help them know, all right, who can we rely on when people do go down?
Yeah, so. And I think it's especially difficult for this entire franchise and its fan base because of how last season ended.
Right.
This team has been beset by injuries for what feels like the last 2 years, but I think it's also a good test because, look, the injury bug is going to bite everyone in the NFL at some point, and the best teams find a way to overcome it. And the best teams, I think, sometimes even find a way to make it a strength in some ways because you might have a guy on the bench who's ready and you don't know it yet. So I think the Lions are going to be tasked with figuring that out. I think the young guys are going to have an opportunity, and I'm excited to see what they can do. Everyone knows it's no secret the schedule is going to be tough, and more guys are going to get hurt. More guys are going to get banged up. That's just life of being in the NFL. But good teams find a way to overcome that week by week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad we have AJ on because he's being so positive right now. Because, again, when I first got that alert, it was, obviously it's not to the level maybe we felt when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt last year. Yeah. But, again, anytime you see that injury icon pop up or you see injury report or something like that, your heart kind of drops a little bit just because you felt like the Lions had a really good shot last year when even with those injuries kept piling up. It just kind of diminished those chances, and you just felt like maybe the season was slipping away a little bit. You don't want that to happen this time around. And again, another name that popped up on the injury list was linebacker Alex Anzalone, one of the captains of the team, one of the leaders of this team, really. And seeing that happen, and then there's also the issues with the contract negotiations going on right now between him and the front office. He said that he didn't really like how the conversations were going while he's dealing with this injury. I mean, how big of a priority, Alex Anzalone specific, do we think it is for the Lions to, one, get a deal, but then also monitor that injury and make sure that he is good to go? Because, again, he missed some time last year, too, and the Lions felt that, too, as well.
Yeah, I think from a contractual standpoint, you want to pay him.
Yeah.
You want guys who want to be here. I don't think there's anybody that embodies what this team has been able to build more than him. I mean, he's been terrific. Everyone loves him. He's well known. So you want to keep him happy. You want him to stay in Detroit. And as health-wise goes, like we've talked about for the last 2 years, you need everybody out on the field. So you got to manage it. You got to be cautious with him and everyone else. And I think it speaks to a larger challenge that the Lions are going to have this season, which is how do you balance being as aggressive as you were or as you have been without compromising the health of your stars, especially on defense. So it's a task that I think they can live up to. I'm interested to see how things work with this new coaching brass in place, but you got to pay him. You got to pay him, and you want to keep him in Detroit, most definitely.
Right. Dean, kind of sharing the same sentiment that Alex Anzalone pretty much unreplaceable at this point.
Yeah, a little bit, and I think that Alex wants to get paid like one of the top linebackers, right? And is he there yet? We just don't know. Like he's shown signs of it through the last few years. But I think that's kind of where it's going. Like he wants to feel valued by the Lions. He wants to feel like he can be there for the next 3-4 years or whatever the case may be. So he wants something long term. And are the Lions willing to pay him what he kind of wants. But to AJ's point, like, yeah, he's a guy who loves playing for the Detroit Lions. He loves his team, and he loves what they've been doing, their rise to becoming one of the best teams in the NFL. And so, like, he wants to be a part of that in the next few years. So definitely agree with AJ as far as that goes. But yeah, the injuries, you got to balance that. We know Dan Campbell likes to be aggressive and all that, but like you kind of maybe have to take a step back at times so you can limit these injuries in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. Again, that first preseason game is next Thursday right here on News 8. I think I speak for all of us here when obviously you want the Lions to win every single time they're out on the field, but health is the number one issue and the number one key, I think. If everybody can get out of that game, no matter if they're the sixth-string fullback or one of the starters playing, helping out, fill out the rosters for the Hall of Fame game, you just want to make sure everybody gets off that field safe and doesn't continue to pile up there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, let's shift gears now again, guys. And we got a couple minutes left in the show, and we're going to introduce everybody to a brand new segment that we're going to be doing every single week here on the Sports Frenzy podcast. Everybody on this show has had tons of experience, not just covering sports here in West Michigan and really throughout our careers, but also enjoying sports, watching sports, attending these games, and seeing everything firsthand. So we thought that it would be fun, because I love nostalgia more than anybody, that it would be fun to kind of go through, take a blast to the past and talk about some of our favorite memories we've had, whether it was covering a sport, being there in person, or just watching and sharing a moment, because sports is the one thing that kind of unites everybody together. So I think with AJ being our guest on the show, he is the perfect person to kick off this new segment. And again, I kind of touched on it a little bit. It has to deal with your time at Michigan State University covering the basketball team when they went to the Sweet 16. Tell us a little bit. I want to let you set the scene, AJ.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to cover Michigan State basketball towards the end of my junior year. That was a really good team. Tyson Walker, AJ Hogard, Malik Hall. That team went to the Sweet 16 in New York City. They played Kansas State, where they ultimately lost in overtime. I believe it was 98-93. It was a high-scoring game. It was crazy. But, there's nothing like Madison Square Garden. That was my first time being in the arena.
See, there you are right there.
Yeah, never felt anything like it.
Right.
It was absolutely terrific. And it was unfortunate to see, the Spartans lose, obviously, but it was an incredible season, incredible year, and that was a terrific game. I think that was one of the best games of the tournament entirely that year. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that's a memory that I will hold with me forever. Kansas State was really good. I think that was sort of like Jerome Tang, their head coach. It was sort of his coming out party, and I think he got an extension 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was a great game. Two really good teams. Marquise Noel was phenomenal in that game. He had something like 19 assists. He was outstanding for Kansas State, but it was really fun. And AJ Hogard, as you see right there, put on a show.
Right. No, I was going to say, I mean, I personally have never gotten to go to Madison Square Garden. Dean, I don't know if you have.
I have not.
Yeah. What is it like stepping foot in there? Not you got to stand on the court, like we see right there, but just being in the building itself when you first walked through those doors. Tell me what that was like.
It's so unique, man. I think in most arenas around the country, you feel like you're walking into sort of like a museum of sorts, like a sports museum. But Madison Square Garden is a completely different ball game. I mean, for me, being just the lifelong basketball junkie, like I saw, Walt Frazier on the wall, Bernard King, Carmelo, so many stars of the past and present. And it was amazing. And then there's nothing like it. There's some kind of energy within the arena that it's hard to articulate. But I mean, and the crazy thing is that this was for a college game. This wasn't a St. John's game or a Knicks game. These were, two teams that really didn't have too many New York ties. Well, there were a lot of New York kids from that game. But, Michigan State, Kansas State, you would have thought that it wouldn't have been as electric as it was, and it was completely the opposite for me.
Right.
I loved every moment of it. But, yeah, there's nothing like it. I've been fortunate enough to be in a handful of arenas, covered a lot of games that year in my senior year, but that game will always stand out to me.
Yeah, nothing's going to top that probably.
Yeah.
I do remember that tournament. Maybe not necessarily that game as clearly as you do, but I do remember that tournament because Michigan State beat my Marquette Golden Eagles in the second round, and I had to come into work the next day and just hear every Michigan State alumni here at News 8 just yapping in my ears. So I do remember that, and again...
That was in Columbus, right?
Yes.
Yes, I was there for that, yeah.
You were there for that too. See, you got to see it. See,
Wow.
see. Now this is funny because the last two times, or not the last two times, but the times I most remember from Marquette in the tournament are when they lose really early. And it was funny because the team that beat them a couple years ago when I was still in school was when Ja Morant single-handedly basically took over the game and beat Marquette, and then thankfully my Grizzlies got him in the draft, so it wasn't all too, I couldn't stay mad at him for too long, but I do remember those losses a little bit more, and I wonder if that's kind of the same thing with you, AJ. I mean, just being a Michigan State fan, I mean, obviously not the outcome you wanted in that game, but definitely a lot of it was a fantastic game, like you said. A lot of good moments that you're going to really stick in your mind that you got to see there in person.
For sure, yeah. That entire tournament run stands out to me because, you know, one, I didn't know anything about Columbus going there, and just as far as the city goes, I was completely impressed. I was blown away. It was a great city. The Marquette game was really interesting because the arena was completely divided. If it was like half Marquette fans, half Michigan State fans.
Oh, we travel well.
Yeah.
We don't always win, but we travel well.
And I don't know if you remember, but Joey Hauser,
Yep.
you know, obviously had left Marquette. So I
had 2 journalism classes with him.
They announced his name, and you heard boos for 5 seconds, and then cheers for 10.
Yeah.
It was very strange, but he was terrific. That whole run was great. But like you said, Phil, the losses, they do sting. They sting a lot, and they stand out more, I think, for everyone involved, the coaches, players, everyone. So, that whole run was special. That team was great. I still do think, looking back, I think that team had enough to get to the Final Four. It's pretty sad that they didn't, especially going into the next year, but that was a whole entirely different story. But that year was great, and they were terrific.
Well, again, super awesome that you got the chance to cover. I do have a question, though. Since you were in New York, did you get to go see all the other sights and sounds? Did you get to try any like fancy restaurants or anything you've never had before? I guess the total trip of being in New York probably a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it really was. We went to a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown that one of my journalism professors swore by, and it was great.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Terrific.
I thought you were about to say it was bad.
No. It was terrific. One cool thing that we did see. So we were walking. I think we went to see the Brooklyn Bridge, and we ended up just walking around the city at one point, and it was really cold, really rainy. Since MSU lost, we had some extra time.
Right.
And so we're walking, and I started seeing like these blue Gotham police cars, and I noticed they said Gotham on them, and I saw all these people, and they were actually filming the second Joker movie.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Whoa!
I walked right past it, and there was like a courthouse or some building that looked like a courthouse.
Yeah.
And a couple of people told us, like, Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, they're in there right now.
So
wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, and so we stood out there for a little while, and then somebody came and was like, "Hey, you guys got to get out of here.
Right.
You got to leave." And so we were like, "All right." But that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. No, I got a perfect weekend. Again, Michigan State losing, not the outcome you want, but again, you got to go to New York, Madison Square Garden. You almost ran into Lady Gaga on the street. Yeah, pretty good trip.
Oh yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, again, thank you for sharing that memory with us, AJ. We really do appreciate it. And as a reminder to everybody, each week on the Sports Frenzy podcast, we are going to be unveiling a new memory that we have, and again, diving a little bit deeper into the past of our careers and also experiences as fans. So definitely something to look forward to. We're going to be touching on the Lions' first preseason game of the season next week, and hopefully we'll be talking about some more positive Tigers news as well, but we'll see about that next week. Again, Dean, so good to see you again. AJ, thank you for filling in for Andy today. We really do appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I want to thank everybody so much for tuning into this latest edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next week.